Alright, it's about 6:45 this morning. As you can see,
New Zealand's North Island is currently facing one of its most severe meteorological crises in decades. A 1-in-100-year weather event, fueled by a potent atmospheric river and the lingering effects of a strengthened La Niña pattern, has submerged vast tracts of land, displaced thousands, and severed critical infrastructure links across the Auckland, Northland, and Coromandel regions. The crisis began on January 18, 2026, when a slow-moving subtropical low-pressure system stalled over the Hauraki Gulf. According to MetService New Zealand, the system tapped into an atmospheric river of moisture stretching from the tropics, delivering over 350 millimeters of rain in less than 24 hours to parts of West Auckland, nearly triple the average total for the entire month of January. Meteorologists note that warmer-than-average Tasman sea temperatures, a consequence of climate trends observed throughout 2025, significantly increased the moisture-holding capacity of the atmosphere. This resulted in high-intensity burst events, where 60 millimeters of rain fell per hour, overwhelming urban drainage systems and rural river catchments simultaneously. The nation's largest city has borne the brunt of the devastation. The Auckland Council officially declared a state of regional emergency on the evening of January 20th. Major motorways, including State Highway 1, were transformed into rivers, trapping hundreds of commuters in their vehicles. In the western suburbs of Henderson and Swanson, the Henderson Creek burst its banks, sending a wall of water into residential neighborhoods. Emergency services, including the Fire and Emergency FENZ, reported conducting over 450 water rescues using inflatable boats and helicopters. The Coromandel Peninsula remains largely isolated as massive landslides have shuttered State Highway 25. Coastal communities such as Whitianga and Pāpāmoa are currently reachable only by sea or air. In Northland, the agricultural sector faces a total loss scenario for summer crops, with thousands of hectares of farmland under 2 meters of water. The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, has confirmed that the damage to infrastructure is unprecedented. Vector and North Power report that approximately 45,000 households remain without electricity due to downed lines and flooded substations. In Auckland, residents have been urged to conserve water as the Ardmore Water Care Plant struggles with high levels of siltation and turbidity in the dams. Auckland International Airport experienced significant flooding in its international terminal, leading to the cancellation of over 200 flights. Travelers are advised to check the Auckland Airport Flight Status before attempting to travel to the precinct. Prime Minister Christopher Luxon, visiting affected areas in West Auckland today, announced an initial $50 million New Zealand dollars Community Resilience Fund to provide immediate relief to families and small businesses. The scale of this event is a stark reminder of our vulnerability to extreme weather, the Prime Minister stated during a press briefing at the Auckland Emergency Management Headquarters. Our priority is the safety of our citizens and the restoration of essential lifelines. The New Zealand Defence Force, NZDF, has deployed 400 personnel to assist with sandbagging, evacuations, and the delivery of clean drinking water to isolated rural townships. As the weather system begins to track eastward toward the Bay of Plenty, the focus is shifting from rescue to recovery. However, with more rain forecasted for the coming weekend, the recovery window is narrow. Economists predict that the 2026 floods will surpass the insurance costs of the 2023 Cyclone Gabrielle, potentially reaching a total economic impact of $4 billion New Zealand dollars. The insurance industry is already bracing for a surge in claims, with the Insurance Council of New Zealand urging policyholders to document damage with photos as soon as it is safe to do so. Meanwhile, the coastal community of Pāpāmoa has been transformed into a disaster zone following a stationary convective storm that dumped an unprecedented volume of rain over the Bay of Plenty within a 6-hour window. As of Thursday evening, large sectors of Pāpāmoa East remain submerged, with hundreds of residents evacuated and local infrastructure reaching a breaking point. The flooding in Pāpāmoa was not a gradual rise, but a sudden violent inundation. Data from MetService New Zealand indicates that the Pāpāmoa Hills area received over 210 millimeters of rain between 4 a.m. and 10 a.m. on January 22nd. This localized cloudburst overwhelmed the carefully designed stormwater catchment systems of the newer subdivisions. The geography of Pāpāmoa, a low-lying coastal strip backed by steep hills, created a funnel effect. Rapid runoff from the Pāpāmoa Hills surged toward the ocean, meeting a high tide that prevented the natural drainage of floodwaters. This resulted in a massive backfilling of the suburban canal systems, causing them to burst their banks into residential streets. More than 300 homes have been assessed with yellow or red placards by building inspectors. In some streets, water levels reach the windowsills of single-story dwellings, destroying furniture, vehicles, and sentimental belongings. While the coastal flats flooded, the Pāpāmoa Hills faced the threat of instability. Several significant landslips occurred along the hillsides, with debris flows reaching the fringes of residential areas. Residents in elevated zones have been warned to watch for cracking ground and tilting trees, which are precursors to further slips. While the majority of residents evacuated in time, local authorities have confirmed that 2 individuals were treated for hypothermia after being swept from their driveway by a fast-moving debris flow near Welcome Bay/Pāpāmoa border. The Tauranga Eastern Link, SH2, experienced significant surface flooding, causing massive traffic tailbacks. Many arterial roads, including sections of Pāpāmoa Beach Road, are currently impassable due to deep silt and abandoned vehicles. The Tauranga City Council has issued an emergency notice regarding the sewage system. The sheer volume of rainwater has caused inflow and infiltration, leading to wastewater overflows. Residents are urged not to flush toilets or use showers unless absolutely necessary to prevent sewage from backing up into homes. PowerCo reported that several underground transformers in the Pāpāmoa East area were decommissioned for safety as water levels rose, leaving approximately 3,200 households in the dark. Despite the devastation, the Pāpāmoa spirit has been on full display. The Pāpāmoa Surf Life Saving Club, usually focused on ocean rescues, pivoted their operations to the streets. Lifeguards used IRBs, inflatable rescue boats, to ferry elderly residents and pets from flooded homes to higher ground.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean.
An emergency evacuation center has been established at the Pāpāmoa Community Center, where the Red Cross and local volunteers are providing blankets, food, and psychological support. "We saw the water rising so fast we didn't even have time to grab our shoes," said one resident at the center. "But the neighbors were there with a tractor and a trailer within minutes. We lost the house, but we have each other." Tauranga Mayor, in a press conference held at the Pāpāmoa Incident Command Post, emphasized that the recovery would be a marathon, not a sprint. "What Pāpāmoa has experienced today is a climate event beyond the design capacity of our current infrastructure," the mayor stated. "Our immediate focus is on ensuring no one is left behind in the flooded zones and stabilizing the hill slopes to prevent further tragedy." Bay of Plenty. Civil defense remains on high alert. With the ground now 100% saturated, even a minor rainfall in the next 48 hours could trigger further flooding. As the sun sets over a waterlogged Pāpāmoa, the scale of the cleanup task becomes apparent. Silt, debris, and ruined household goods line the curbs of once pristine suburban streets. While the rain has eased for now, the community remains in a state of high vigilance, waiting for the water to recede and the rebuilding to begin. Meanwhile, the disaster occurred in the early hours of January 22nd, 2026, following a period of unprecedented rainfall. MetService New Zealand recorded a staggering 190 millimeters of rain in the Tauranga/Mount Maunganui area within a 12-hour window. Geologists from GNS Science explain that the volcanic cone of Mauau, while appearing solid, is composed of layers of rhyolitic lava and loose pyroclastic debris. The extreme saturation caused pore water pressure to reach critical levels, lubricating the interface between the topsoil and the underlying bedrock. This resulted in multiple deep-seated rotational slips on the northern and western faces of the mountain. The most tragic consequences occurred at the foot of the mountain. A massive debris flow, a mixture of mud, boulders, and uprooted trees, surged through the Mount Maunganui beachside holiday park. Using drone thermal imaging and LiDAR technology, engineers have identified active tension cracks near the summit. There is a high risk of a secondary collapse if the region receives further rainfall forecasted for this weekend. The slips have dumped significant amounts of sediment into the harbor entrance. The Port of Tauranga has issued a notice to mariners regarding floating debris and navigational hazards in the shipping channel. Prime Minister Christopher Luxon and Minister for Emergency Management arrived at the Mount Maunganui Surf Lifesaving Club this afternoon to assess the damage. To see such a beloved Taonga treasure in this state is heartbreaking for all New Zealanders, the Prime Minister said. Our immediate focus is on supporting the families of the victims and ensuring the stability of the remaining slopes. The Bay of Plenty Civil Defense has activated a Tier 3 response. Geotechnical engineers are currently using specialized sensors to monitor slope movement in real time. Mount Maunganui is the crown jewel of Bay of Plenty tourism. The closure of the mountain and the damage to the holiday park are expected to have a multi-million-dollar impact on the local economy. Several international cruise ships scheduled to dock at the Port of Tauranga have been advised that shore excursions to Mauao are cancelled. Cafes and retail shops along Maunganui Road have seen a sharp decline in foot traffic as the main beach area remains cordoned off for heavy machinery and emergency vehicles. Restoring Mauao will be a complex multi-year project involving geotechnical stabilization, ecological restoration, and cultural consultation. The Council has warned that the base track may remain closed for the entirety of 2026 as engineers determine how to safely rebuild on the altered terrain. As the community of Mount Maunganui begins to process the shock, the focus remains on the resilience of the people and the eventual healing of the land.